Well, hello everybody that's joined us so far, and we hope some more people come in as time goes on. We're going to be focusing on line 3 this evening, but before we begin with that formal part of our meeting, I need to very painfully reflect on this IPCC report that just came out yesterday.
Yep.
9th, from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And this report is so alarming. And I mean, it isn't as if it's a lot of things we didn't know, but it's just put together into this package deal where it puts it all on the line that, as the head of the United Nations said, this is code red for humanity. It is, it's frightening to see it put in those terms, even on the front page of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel this morning's.
Wow.
Paper.
Wow.
This is serious stuff. And I'm sure that many of you have been reading things online about it and are doing a lot of your own research about the report. And if you haven't so far, please make yourself well acquainted with it. But it's actually the first major review about climate change since 2013 that was done by this Intergovernmental Panel,
Wow.
the IPCC. And it was released Monday. And this is just ahead of the big COP26 climate summit that's going to happen in Glasgow, Scotland in November. So the timing is very important. And UN scientists have found temperatures on Earth will rise by 1.5 Celsius in 20 years. I mean, it's definitely going to be happening. And we're going to have to learn to live with that. And we're already seeing the impacts of it. And there will be a 2-meter rise in the sea level by the end of the century, even if we stop adding CO2 in the atmosphere tomorrow. We're crossing a crucial climate threshold. And by 2030, they figure it's really too late to turn anything around. So and that's a decade sooner than they had anticipated in their initial findings. So these findings are based on over 14,000 science reports that have been pulled together. And since they found that since 1970, global temperatures have risen faster than in any other 50-year period in the last 2,000 years. The rising seas and melting ice caps and other effects of climate change will be irreversible for centuries. That's the term they're using, irreversible. They had not talked like that before.
Yep.
And we're running the climate experiment on us, said one scientist. We're inside the beaker in the laboratory. We're part of this experiment. And we're responsible for it. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, this report must sound a death knell for coal and fossil fuels before they destroy our planet. And we are now living right now in a climate change world. It's not coming 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line. We are in the midst of it right now. And all you have to do is watch the news on a daily basis to understand this and to acknowledge it. And we are going to have to learn to deal with loss and damage that's being done right now and will continue to be done, and try to lessen the impact by immediately stopping the use of fossil fuels as quickly as possible. So we have to wake up to this, and we have to look at the greatest sources of fossil fuel emissions and zoom in on those as quickly as possible. And for us here in 350 Milwaukee, one of those is re-energies, which we've been dealing with as an organization for the last few years. And they've had some recent good news of moving in the right direction. It's too little too late, but they've said now that they will close the Elm Road Oak Creek coal plant, which they swore they would never close a couple years ago. And that within 3 years, they will have it closed. And it's really turned out to be a matter of money. It's costing them too much to keep it going. And however, they're talking about conversion to gas, as if this is a renewable fuel, as if gas isn't a fossil fuel. And I think we have to confront this with We Energies big time, because gas is a fossil fuel, and we have to stop using natural gas as well as the coal, as well as the oil. And so this is a big deal for them, because in all of their papers that they've put out and proposals for dealing with change in the future and their plans to deal with climate change, they keep referring to natural gas as an alternative to their coal and oil. And it's a fossil fuel, and it gives off CO2, and it's got to be part of the deal. Gas as an alternative to coal. Also, We Energy, even though it's increasing its number of solar fields, is opposing new legislation that's being proposed in Madison that would allow for community solar development around the state. And actually 2 Republican Assembly people in the state are proposing this, which is really helpful, because they can bring on other Republicans, hopefully, to support this effort. And then there'll be more options for people to go with solar electricity. The excuse for We Energies opposing this is profits, basically. They will lose some money. They will lose some profits. And we say, too bad. Also, the one thing that's really helpful is electric cars are making a huge burst in orders for electric cars, and commitments from all the major car manufacturers to go all electric. And so that's something we can be very grateful for, because transportation is another big area that produces fossil fuels, greenhouse gases. So here we are looking at Line 3 as a means of transporting more fossil fuels, in this case, the tar sands oil from Canada, to the refineries in this country to be burned to create more CO2 at the same time that this IPCC report has come out. And it's the drama of this is...
Yeah, it's probably off there.
So, and it costs a tremendous amount of resources and creates a lot of CO2 just to dig up this tar sands oil up in Canada. So it contributes a lot all along its production and, of course, the burning of it. So we want to go on and see the connections between our work on Line 3 and this IPCC report. And to lead us in this, I turn to Greg.
Okay, I'm not sure exactly what the lead up was, but probably those of you who've been reading the newsletter have seen that we've been talking a lot about Line 3 in recent months. And Line 3 has certainly been in the news a lot. And so we thought we wanted to get everybody up to speed on why it is that we're concentrating on Enbridge Line 3. And let's see if, okay. And while we're talking about this, keep the urgency of the IPCC climate report in mind, because it's really one of the drivers of why we're looking at Line 3. Wow. So why are we talking about Enbridge Line 3 so much? First of all, it carries the dirtiest oil in the world, which is tar sands oil. It's a thick, sticky form of crude oil, and it has kind of the consistency of peanut butter mixed with sand. The mining and the refining creates up to 3 times the pollution of oil that's obtained from a well. And the new pipeline that Enbridge is putting in, trying to get running, will be able to double their capacity to transport tar sands, oil in particular. There's a campaign called Stop the Money Pipeline for Line 3. It's a national climate campaign. The campaign targets banks that are funding Enbridge as well as other oil companies. And those banks include Chase and Wells Fargo, whose names you've probably been hearing a lot over the last several years, because 350 Milwaukee has been protesting those banks. And we're hoping and we're expecting that the Stop the Money Pipeline will amplify the impact that we can have continuing to protest at Chase and Wells Fargo downtown. This campaign touches climate, Indigenous rights, and the environment, all current important initiatives that are going right now. I'm just looking out the window periodically, and it is impressive. So Line 3's impact is really a climate catastrophe. This is a look at part of Alberta, Canada, where they strip mine. At the top, you can see in one picture the contrast between what was there and what happens when they go into mine tar sands. Okay. And this is what a handful of tar sands looks like. Not the sweet crude that most people have heard about. So what is Line 3 in particular? It's about 1,100 miles of pipeline between Edmonton, Alberta, and Superior, Wisconsin, that's been in operation since the 1960s. And the old pipeline, which is currently being used, operates at half pressure because it's been deteriorating over that time, and they're afraid to run at a higher pressure now. So what is Enbridge doing? Well, they want to put in a new pipeline. It'll be a 36-inch pipeline, and they're planning to abandon the old 34-inch pipeline. That increase in size, plus the fact that they'll be able to boost the pressure back up, will allow them to double the capacity of Line 3. And that's transporting tar sands oil to Wisconsin. And that oil is then delivered from Superior to a number of other pipelines, some of which go through the Mackinac Straits as well as to refineries. And that's in the Midwest, Eastern Canada, and the Gulf Coast. So that oil goes all over the country.
Oh, wow.
So Winona LeDuc will give us a little bit of background. Now, she recorded this about 3 or 4 years ago, I think in around 2016 rather. Now let's hear her explanation about Line 3.
What is Line 3? A lot of people want to know, and a lot of people don't know. So think of it this way. There are 6 really old pipelines that they put through in northern Minnesota, shipping diluted tar sands from Alberta to Superior, Wisconsin. And one of those lines is called Line 3. It has, according to Enbridge, about 900 structural anomalies in it. Structural anomalies are things like small little pinhole leaks, maybe it comes some cracks, and some of those end up to be big problems, like that Kalamazoo spill. That was a structural anomaly. Line 3, it's old and it's corroding and it's at the end of its life. It's already had a number of leaks and spills, and frankly, it's a catastrophe waiting to happen. There is a likelihood that there is a whole bunch of contamination under the present line. And once that corrodes, our children and grandchildren may one day watch it drain a lake or a wetland or flood a farm field. Fixing these problems is very expensive, so Enbridge wants to abandon the pipeline, walk away, and build a brand new one in a brand new corridor. Enbridge calls this a replacement project. They're replacing Line 3. They are not replacing Line 3. They are putting in a whole new corridor and doubling the size of the line. That's not a replacement. That's a brand new line. And that's what's wrong. So we've got 2 problems. First, we've got a problem of the proposed new Sandpiper and Line 3 corridor through the heart of our best lakes and wild rice watersheds and through our treaty territories. We also have the problem of this old crumbling line that Enbridge wants to abandon. And right now, what abandonment means is that they just leave it and walk away. And the company says that they will take care of it, but it is not clear that there is any liability from the Enbridge Corporation. The worst part is that neither the United States government or the state of Minnesota has any plan to deal with it. The good news is that the Ojibwe tribes are standing up, and a lot of landowners, county commissioners, and mayors are getting increasingly concerned about who's going to be liable for Enbridge's mess. So tell Governor Dayton, just tell the state legislator, to tell county commissioners that abandonment is not what we want. We want big Canadian energy corporations to clean up their mess and not leave it for all of us. And we feel that they should put hardworking Minnesotans to work doing it. It's time to make a plan, investing in cleaning up and stabilizing our existing infrastructure and building stuff that actually serves people. Be good. This is Winona Leduc.
So she's talking about is Line 3, which in the US enters in North Dakota up here and runs down to Superior, Wisconsin. Line 3, as you can see, goes through, it originally went through, the current Line 3 goes right through the Leech Lake Band of the Ojibwe reservation. They objected to that, and over a period of time managed to force the Enbridge to reroute the line around them. Although you can see it still goes through the 1855 treaty area. And that's the area that Winona Leduc was talking about, where they do, they harvest wild rice. It's largely a wilderness area that's should by treaty belong to them. Once it hits Superior, Wisconsin, there are a number of pipelines which fan out from there. And then there's also Line 5, which goes from Superior, runs across northern Wisconsin through the Upper Peninsula and crosses the Straits of Mackinac and ends up down in eastern Ontario. A little bit, Detroit is somewhere right in this range, probably about 30, 50 miles south of that point. So that's the pipelines. We'll talk a little bit more about those specific ones, but let's see who they are, who are forcing this through. It's a multinational pipeline company headquartered in Calgary. Their business is transporting crude, primarily in North America, most of it in the US. They have the longest pipeline system in North America, 3,100 miles of it. And again, most of those pipelines are in the US in terms of length. They're a medium-sized corporation. They've got a history. I put spill in quotes because people have other words for it other than spill. They think spill is doesn't really convey the magnitude of what's happening. The Polaris Institute, using Enbridge's own documentation, calculated that there were 804 spills in their pipelines in the 11 years between 99 and 2010, which spilled a total of about 2.5 million gallons of petrochemicals and oil. The National Wildlife Federation did research and found that Line 5, that's that line that runs from Superior down to Ontario, has spilled at least 1.1 million gallons of oil since 1968. In 1991, Line 3 ruptured in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, spilling 1.7 million gallons of crude oil onto the frozen Prairie River. It was fortunate the river was frozen because that aided in the cleanup. That is still the largest inland oil spill in US history. Probably many of us remember this. In 2010, the segment of the pipeline, which is an offshoot of Line 5 in Michigan, 6B, ruptured in wetland in Marshall, Minnesota, and flowed into the Kalamazoo River. They estimated that there were more than 800,000 gallons of crude oil released then. And the oil that is released, the oil that is being transported in line 3 and in line 5 and many other pipelines is called in the business dilbit. It's a contraction of diluted bitumen, which is what tar sands oil is. Because of the makeup of that oil, most of the oil sinks in water, interestingly. Now that's a problem, because when the oil is in the bottom of the lake, in the bottom of the river, finding it is a lot harder than when it's floating on the top. In addition to that, cleaning it up from the bottom of the river results in a lot more damage to the riverbed than skimming it off the top of the water. So tar sands oil is an especially insidious kind of crude oil. So what are some of the current risks and future risks, that big ones that we're looking at with it? Line 5 carries 23 million gallons per day of petroleum liquids. And there's a twin pipeline on line 5, which runs under the Straits of Mackinac. There's about 4 miles of it, and it's exposed on the floor of the straits. In June 2020, a little over a year ago, a Michigan judge ordered the company to shut down that pipeline under the straits because of damage to the pipeline that occurred in those straits. Since been reopened. The new line 3 pipeline, well, to quote from the Ojibwe, is being built through our best lakes, wetlands, and wild rice beds. That's that yellow area from the 1855 treaty that we saw on the map earlier. The new line 3, just in Minnesota, would cross more than 200 water bodies. Those are those lakes. Those are the wetlands, those wild rice beds. There are 2 Mississippi River crossings, in addition to several other rivers. And you can imagine what will happen if that pipeline ruptures in the Mississippi headwaters. Where will that oil go? The Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe were so concerned, and we saw them, their reservation, they are the ones who moved or caused the pipeline to take a new route. They were so concerned about the risk that they managed to stop the new pipeline. And it took them some time to manage that, but they did. And in addition to that, they negotiated the future removal of the old pipeline that crosses their reservation. A lot of concern about that. And let's see if we can make this run again. There we go. So let's look a little bit quickly at the fight to stop line 3. Enbridge proposed putting in a new pipeline back in 2014. That initiated a lot of litigation pretty immediately. It's been escalating ever since. It's delayed the project by 5 years. Several key anti-pipeline victories were won during that period, which is what held it up. But last November, less than a year ago, the project was approved by the Minnesota state regulators, which kicked off a whole new initiative. The Minnesota courts in the Biden administration since then have backed the Trump era approval. Last January, protesters first gathered at construction sites. That was after the approval. Before that, they'd been litigating in court. There were protests and police countermeasures that have been continuing since then and escalated. But this was certainly the next step in their fight to stop line 3 crossing northern Minnesota. Meanwhile, Enbridge has continued installing the pipeline with the objective of completing the pipeline before permits are revoked. They are reimbursing the cost of enforcement that the US agencies, police and sheriff's departments are doing. They've set up an escrow account, which the US agencies draw on, which means that effectively they are funding the police enforcement. So there is a lot of resistance going on. It has been going on since 2014. There are some resistance actions that you and I can take. First of all, stay informed, get as much information. We put out a fair amount of it. It's fairly dense in the newsletters periodically that come out from 350 Milwaukee. Get involved, attend events, Fridays for Future, write letters, emails, make phone calls. 350 Milwaukee has been protesting Chase and Wells Fargo banks for, I think, going on 3 years now. We're down almost every Friday on Wisconsin and Water. Come down and join us. We've got the signs. Support the people who are doing direct action. Play a supportive role. Usually that's in the form of money and supplies for frontline protesters, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. Take direct action. That's a big ask. Very few of us are likely to do that, but we do know people, and we'll be hearing from some people who are more on the front lines. This is someone who's joined us tonight, and this is a bit of a tough video to watch, but it's important. So let's see what's happening on the front lines.
Your faces are all over the internet right now. Just so you know that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're trending. You're trending. No, I'm not releasing. No, I'm not releasing my hands.
If you don't release your hands,
I'm not releasing my prayers. I'm not. You don't have to remove them. You're going to remove them.
Alabama hasn't endangered anybody's life.
You're hurting me. No, I will not.
Oh,
No, I will not. Back off.
don't let him do that to you. Oh, you going to hear this story?
He's hurting me. He put his thumb in my neck. He's hurting me. He pressed his thumb into my neck against this.
Can we get you to come down here and hold some people back, please?
Would you treat your
I need
grandmother this way? Yeah.
Jill, I'm right behind you. I just need
What
you
if
to-
I was your grandmother? What if I was your mother? Would you do it? Yes, you would. Yes, you would. I will not remove my hands. I will not remove my hands.
Be an example.
Stand down. Stand down. Shame on you. They're hurting me. You are hurting me. Your grandmother. I have a metal neck. I have a metal leg. I have chronic severe.
Release your hands.
He's hurting me.
Okay, will you let go of the
No, I will
stand
not.
and walk with us?
No, I will not.
Really? Okay.
I need you to let I love you.
She was an animal.
Stop playing three floaters.
Jill.
Look what they're doing. I'm a mother.
Jill.
I'm a grandmother. You're an educator. You know, we know, you know.
Jill.
I'm badass grandma. Don't call me Jill anymore.
Okay. Well,
I'm not letting go.
Still need you to let go.
I am not going to
the
let
cable,
go.
Okay.
I am not going to let go.
Well, because I
You
don't have to use
you
force.
are committing environmental genocide. This is an environmental emergency. Everybody watching this, hashtag environmental emergency, environmental genocide.
All right, Jill. I need.
No, I'm not gonna let go. Go ahead, hurt me. You can hurt me real easy.
Release.
He's breaking my hand. He is breaking my hand. He's breaking my hand.
Your hand is inside that.
Okay, Jill. I just need you to let me.
People at home, do you see this? This is America. Amerika. Shame. You're hurting me. He's trying to break my hand right here. Zoom in on this. He's pressing my wrist. I have severe arthritis. He can break me easily. Your job is not worth this guilt. I love you.
So, um, so we're going to hear from Jill and Tim Cordon. As always, raise your hand in the reactions area on your screen, or enter the questions in chat. Would you introduce yourself, please, Tim?
Sure. I'm Tim Cordon. I'm a social justice coordinator with First Unitarian Society. Been a activist on and off for much of my life in the areas of peace and social justice and environmental justice. And I've worked as a nurse. I've been a farmer. I've been a teacher in the public schools, and about maybe 5 years ago, I decided, waking up more severely to the climate crisis. Every year it seems more intense. We see more evidence, and I want to pause a minute and thank both Julie and you for the excellent talks that you've led so far. I mean, I really am humbled by the information that you shared. Excellent presentation. In fact, I would very much love to get a copy of your slideshow if that's possible, but we can talk about that later. Anyway, I decided that I needed to try to get a job in social justice and help make the connections that if we don't live a more just life and change the way we're living, we're heading for complete destruction. And I think we're starting to see this as the planet is on fire, as we have more and more severe weather situations, and it's just the feedback loops are happening. And this report that came out on Monday doesn't surprise any of us. What surprises us is how complacent the rest of society can be in just allowing business to go on as usual. We just keep making our cars bigger and thinking we can keep doing the same things. Anyways, I'm preaching to the converted. So one of the other big things, of course, is that we're waking up as a nation and as a world to white supremacy culture, and how important it is that we face that. And so you have things like land acknowledgements coming into common practice for gatherings, and there's at least talk of reparations, and there's talk of land back for our indigenous siblings. But I think most of you would agree there's not nearly enough action. And what the Line 3 fight really represents for us is that it's something, it's a place where we can go up against colonial capitalism and white supremacy culture and really side with our indigenous relatives. And so it's one of the places that I think really should be uniting us. And so when I first heard about the Treaty People gathering back in May, I got all excited. I had wanted to go up to the camps and help out. And when I heard about these mass actions, I thought, okay, let's get a bunch of Wisconsin people to go. And so I started organizing, and I figured it would be easier for people to get there, and people would be more ready to go if they could go with a group. And that, I think, was true for a lot of people. I also reached out to the Ho-Chunk people in Black River Falls, to the elected leaders of the Ho-Chunk Nation, which I should point out, I'm from Ho-Chunk territory, called Jalop or Dalop. Talop, I don't know quite how to say it. I'm sorry, but Dejop, that's it. I'm on stolen land. We all are on stolen land. And so reaching out to the leaders there, I said, we're wanting to go support the
Tim is speaking.
Oh, good.
to support the indigenous-led movement to stop this pipeline. And we'd like very much to stop in and have your blessing. And if you wanted to, join us, And they invited us to come to their powwow grounds. And we've been back there 3 times now, or twice more, and have held beautiful conversations with leaders of the nation, representatives, elected officials, as well as some of the elders who don't hold elected positions, but they're concerned about this pipeline. And they always are quick to crack their wallets and make sure that they take a collection for us to send up to the camps. So we went once to the Treaty People gathering, and it was there that Jill and I were part of an arrestable action, our first one there, and we were both arrested. She was cited and released. I spent a couple of days in jail, and since then we've decided to go back as many times as we can. I know Jill spent a lot of time up there. I've been back 3 more times, visiting camps and trying to be supportive. Because I have a pending case and I don't want to and because to get released, one of the stipulations of my bail was not to get arrested or to trespass on Enbridge property again. I've been staying away from Enbridge property. Jill has not been staying away from Enbridge property, and more power to her. At any rate, been up there, been helping out in the camps to support the water protectors camps to stay afloat, and trying to juggle my job and other responsibilities. And the next thing on my table, which I'm really hoping 350 Milwaukee will join with us on, is a rally from our state capital that will then send us off, and that would be on August 24th. We're hoping folks from Milwaukee will form one of our caravans again, a solidarity caravan that will take us from cities around Wisconsin through Madison, up through the Black River Falls, Ho-Chunk headquarters, and on to Minneapolis, St. Paul. Normally we would go up from there to one of the camps, but this time on the 24th, we're going to stay put. The Unity Universalist Church, Unity Unitarian Church has agreed to put us up in with floor space, couch space, whatever we can find. And then we'll all be there ready for the action on the 25th. There's plans to have a big, hopefully 1,000 or more people at the Minnesota state capitol, asking Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan to take a stand against Line 3, and also encouraging national attention so that we stop this pipeline before it's too late. Last I heard, they're over 70% done. They're working every day, drilling under rivers and pushing pipe through. There's been frack outs where the drilling fluid and stuff has broken through and has come up in the water. People have seen this. I don't know how many there have been, and there's no way of really knowing them because we can't possibly watch all the various places they're working on this, but it's quite extensive. Many sites where they're working. So my hope is that Milwaukee will join us in one big push, maybe a send-off rally in Milwaukee on the 24th, join the Madison rally at the state capitol, where we hope to get a lot of Madison support, and then whoever can to come with us and spend the night in Minnesota for a large occupation or presence, I should say, at the state capitol in St. Paul. And that's about all I can say right now, and I'm happy to take questions or comments.
Thank you, Tim. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And as we do in our meetings, in terms of facilitation, we ask that you use the reactions area to raise your hand, and that keeps us in order. So let's begin the discussion. Any questions, please?
Let me jump in here quick. I don't know if everyone saw Bruce Wiggins' question. He writes, isn't part of the problem with the tar sands oil the chemicals that have to be added to make it flow through a pipeline? And the answer to that, short answer is yes. You saw what it looked like in those, what the tar sands looks like. They actually inject steam in it to release the tar oil. And then, yes, they have to add diluents to it, which are proprietary. They don't say what it is they're adding to it, but those compound the problem with spills, partly because they don't know what it is, but those also are part of what evaporates off and causes what's left to sink to the bottom of the water.
So let me jump in if you're not seeing it. Jean de Simone Seeger states that they tell us that other modes of transportation are worse. How do we reduce our consumption? So the question is about other modes of transportation.
I mean, I'm certainly happy to jump in with my thoughts, but I think a lot of us can answer that. The climate time bomb can't burn the tar sands oil, period. Whether they delivered it, you know, in the most safely designed caskets delivered by God himself or herself, we can't burn that oil. That's the bottom line. So whether we truck it, train it, send it in pipelines, or ship it around in fuel tankers, we cannot burn the tar sands oil. It's game over for the planet. It's game over for humanity. And that's the only real thing we got to tell. We keep hammering home to people. We cannot burn that oil. And it's dirt, as Greg pointed out, it's the dirtiest oil. It requires 3 times the energy to refine it and make it burnable. And all of that just means more carbon that we're burning. And I want to just point out that Bruce made the point that I'm from First Unitarian Madison, not Milwaukee, although yeah. And so, thank you.
Good statement, Chris. And you know, for covering the gamut of transportation, I just want to highlight what we have dealt with here in Milwaukee in terms of trains and the lack of identification of the content so that local fire departments can offset any accidents. You know, I forget years ago, the train that blew up that passed through in Maine, that passed through Milwaukee. If it had blown up in Milwaukee, it would have affected at least 8,000 people in that tragedy. So, and that's just a short on it. You know, but again, I'm thanking you, Tim, for bringing up all the amplifications that transportation does not work.
While you're working on that, I noticed there was another question from Bruce. If we can't go on the 24th and 25th, how can we support others? I mean, I think this is something that, you know, you all are doing it with your Fridays for Future or your presence at Wells Fargo. You're doing it with your letter writing campaigns. You're doing it by building the 350 movement or whatever. I think we need to unite in a big way and make the connections between militarism, capitalism, unbridled, you know, capitalism out of control, and the destruction of the planet. And we need to really come together and do this, whatever days do work for us. If the 24th and the 25th don't work, you know, I don't think there's an Army Corps of Engineering office in Milwaukee, but they need to hear from us. Of course, writing letters to Biden, whatever you can do. We just have to keep hammering this home that this pipeline has to stop. And it's unlikely that it will stop before they start flowing the tar sands oil through it. All signs are that it's going to go forward, but we can't give up. All signs are that we're going to destroy the planet and that we aren't going to get get on top of the climate crisis before it's too late. But we have to try.
Thanks, Tim. Julie has a question.
So Tim, I have a question for you. It appears that the sheriff's departments and the counties up in Minnesota are being paid overtime by Enbridge to be the policemen for the protests, and that they're the ones that are financing the codes and the tear gas, etc. And this is just so outlandish that a Canadian corporation can be paying the salaries of Minnesota police officers to oppress the water protectors. And I wonder if there's any kind of a legal challenge on that in itself. And the militarization of this, of the police officers is very concerning. So,
I don't have any answers myself as to whether there's any legal challenge. I think that, yeah, it should be illegal. It should definitely be illegal for corporations to contribute to the supporting of armed forces. And yes, militarization of our police forces is very disturbing. I must say that I found the officers that I dealt with were kind to me. They did not treat me roughly. I treated them kindly. They treated me kindly. I don't think we want to make this about the police or the sheriffs or anybody being the bad guys in this situation. I think we're going to get farther by practicing more of a Gandhian passive resistance to what's going on. And I would encourage people that can go up there and take an arrest citation to do so as soon as you're able. And if you can't come up on the 24th or 25th, you can come up when you can. Those camps are running 24/7, and there will be other actions. There's a walk that's been coming. People are walking from the White Earth Nation down to St. Paul. I'm not sure where they're at now, but people have been walking that whole distance. And I think it's just important that we all ask ourselves, what can I do? If you can talk to your people at work and get, I talk to everybody, put it in my email signature, send a letter to Biden, go to the comments line on the, yes, go to the comments line and tell the White House to stop line 3. It's not too late. If we all do what we can and reach out, we might just be able to stop this. And it would be a major boost for the climate movement. We need that now.
Thanks, Tim. This is George. And I don't see anybody on the stack. So I'm going to jump. At our last monthly meeting, we met with Gwen Moore's staff representative around climate and other issues. And we raised the question that, Biden canceled the KXL. And can he do this? And why isn't he doing this in terms of line 5? And we really didn't get a good answer, if I remember, beyond him saying that he wouldn't do it. Tim, do you have any insight into this? And after that, Greg, do you have any insight into why Biden won't move on this as an executive order? Tim.
Well, George, I think just a little bit I know about you. You probably have more insight, more accurate insight on political affairs than I do. I'm not that politically savvy, to tell you the truth. I'm really just an average guy who knows that it's time to listen to people of color. It's time to listen to indigenous communities. And it's time to do everything possible to stop the climate crisis before it's too late. But what I will say is I think that Biden is not a radical environmentalist. He's not a peacenik. We know this. And many of us hoped that we could push him. I think that he closed down Keystone XL because it looked good and it was something he could do because Line 3 was still open and was moving, you know, the capacity was going to be there. But I don't know. I want to like Biden. I want him to do the right thing. I love that he selected an Indigenous woman to head up the Interior Department, but I can't for the life of me understand why he's not rising to be a true climate justice president at this time. And all I can say is, you know, it's just like in the civil rights era, Johnson was not the civil rights champion that he, you know, ended up becoming. He needed to be pushed by the civil rights movement. And I think this is the climate justice movement that has to just go for it and push. And maybe we can get some results with Biden.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, Greg, do you have any insight?
No, I'm afraid I've been communicating with Jill because Jill has joined the meeting by phone. She is the 828 number.
Okay.
And I want to give her the floor and let her talk.
Thank you. Hey, Jill.
Okay, I got back in on the phone. Pam gave me the phone number and we got the ID, so here I am. So I don't know how many of you have seen the video online of my arrest. I spoke today with Winona's right-hand videographer, Carrie, and saw some news on that. First of all, I want to tell everybody about the New York Times. I don't know if Tim brought that up, did an article with Winona today where she says that she feels that Biden has really let down and betrayed the Indigenous people. It's a great article in the New York Times you want to check out. And then as far as I have been blocked permanently on Facebook. So if anybody's been looking for me there, I've been blocked many times, but this time I've been locked out and cannot get back in. So Carrie told me today, and I've kind of been following on other forums, there has been over 1 million views of the video of the police brutality. And I differ with Tim on that. I'm glad that he had a good experience with them. But if you look online at some of the camps and the way they're being now, I highly recommend people go to, it's called Confluence, CONFLUENCE DOC. So they have a couple on different forums. They have different things. So some of it's at Confluence Doc, and other ones it's Confluence Documentary. They have been doing a phenomenal job, and they have like 3 or 4 videos of me on there. They had an interview that I did before this even happened, because as you all know, I was planning on doing a fast if I was put in jail. So I'm going to try and make this brief. I know everybody's been on here a long time. So I was, if anybody's seen the video, they're anywhere from 1 to 9 minutes on the internet. I was absolutely brutalized. They used at least 3, probably 4, what they call pain compliance methods on me to get me to release the lock. I did not lock down on the lock. I held on to the padlock that held the water pump that went into the Mississippi River, and this was going to be the first time that they were going to extract water from the Mississippi River. And I just can't have that. You know, the Mississippi River, you know, I think I said this last time too, that people, you know, either consider this an Indigenous matter or a Minnesota matter. And it's not. The Mississippi goes through 10 states on its way to dump in the cesspool we know as the Gulf of Mexico from all the oil deluges. So I held on to that lock, and they first, he put his thumb into my neck, right under my jaw and under the ear, and that's a major pressure point. He pushed in so hard that it hit my esophagus, and I swear to God, right then he was going to kill me. I thought that was curtains. Then after that, he took and smashed my head, and it doesn't look like a big deal in the video, into the pole, the metal poles that were on this cage. And I started, I was screaming, "You're hurting me, you're hurting me." And I was telling him, I have 3 discs fused in my neck, and I have stenosis, and I have severe degenerative arthritis, and I have osteoporosis. And I kept saying, "You're gonna break me," telling him everything that was wrong with me. So then after that, then they took my hands, and this is another tactic used. And you can see the close-up of it in the videos. They zoomed right in on it. They take your fingers first to the point they're going to break, but they won't break them, but you'll wish they broke them because it hurts so bad. Then they did the same thing to my wrist. And again, I have severe arthritis, especially in the hand that they were, the officer Yoakum, Alexander Yoakum, used on me. And so after all those they finally somehow got my hand off of the locks. So all I can say is, if when you look at that, look at all the ones after that, all the arrests. They are brutalizing everybody. It makes me sick to the core. Also, one of the people who had a first jury trial, that wanted to get it over with. She didn't want to drag it out, to hold up things in court like a lot of us are doing. She went ahead with the trial. 2 people did. And I don't know, I'm not sure who it is. Maybe Tim knows who it was. But this person went ahead with the jury trial, and she was figuring she would just pay the fine, and instead they sentenced her on the spot to 25 days in jail. Do not pass go, do not go home and change your clothes, go directly to jail. This is insanity. And when you talk about, and I brought this up to the defendant group, I said, because I've talked to a few lawyers. I've talked I talked to Tom about it today. Tom's on the call. Tom today, Larry Dupuy called me back from ACLU, and Tom had asked if they asked for a transfer of venue, because there is no chance of getting a fair trial up there. There is no chance of getting an unbiased jury. Everywhere you go, there's goal line, Minnesota, goal line 7, line 3, line 3, good for the Minnesota economy. And so they're all for it. So to get a jury of your peers there is just not even doable. And so people should be asking for a transfer of venue. That's the one thing. So I went to see a doctor last week. In fact, Tim knows him. It's Dr. Kevin, who was following us when I was in the Wisconsin 7 on the hunger strike, and he asked what he could do, and then he said, if you'd like to come into the office, that he would see me. So anyway, I did that, and he called a friend in the spine clinic there, and they said I have a concussion, and I have and I was hoping to skate through the rest of my life here without having any more surgeries, and now it's imminent. I have to have spine surgery. In fact, the doctor advised me to use a walker or a cane because he said at this point, if I was to fall, I could be permanently paralyzed. Got pain in my spine that I didn't have before this. So when I spoke with Carrie today, you know, and she's the one that told me it's got 100 or 1 million views in all the different social medias, and so she, and this isn't confirmed yet, so this is a, you know, this is a scoop here. She's contacting a Washington D.C. lawyer who, because there's clear physical what do you call, claim for injury, and I've been told by several lawyers, and I also been talking to Kimberly Motley a lot about it, and so I've gotten, you know, some feedback from several attorneys, and Kimberly said, and I believe Tommy has said too, that not only do I have a claim against the sheriff's department, I also have a claim against the state of Minnesota, and more importantly than that, against Enbridge. And this is not about money for me. I know people always say that. I don't care. I want Enbridge out of business. I want that pipeline shut down. And as far as calling President Biden, you know, I mean, I disagree with Tim on that the comment line is down. When I finally, at one point, reached someone on the comment line, they said, well, you can send in an email. I said, yeah, I've sent in about 4 already. And they said, well, they don't even read them for 6 weeks. And that's just whoever's going to read them. So Biden's never going to get it. And also Biden's Jamie Pinkham, who is on Biden's staff, it'll be 3 weeks ago tomorrow that he was there. And the Indigenous People, Winona, and some of the others took him around and showed him where the frack outs were and what they've done, and appealed to them that you cannot take 5 billion gallons of water when the water is as low as it is and in a drought. And so Biden knows. He doesn't need phone calls. Which he's not, doesn't, you can't get through anyway. They don't read the emails. Same thing with the Minnesota governor. I've called, I've emailed. They don't answer. They don't care anymore. They do not care. They do not care. And I don't know, you know, what Enbridge has over on everybody, that everybody's scared to death of them. I don't get it. I don't think it's just white envelopes under the table. It's greater than that. And that's, again, just my opinion. So these are some of the things that I've got going on right now and that I've got to report on. And I think what we need to do is keep trending on all of the social media, because that is calling your senator, your congressman, the president is futile in this day and age. What does work until we don't have it anymore is social media. So in the social media, you have to do at POTUS. You know, you have to put in, you know, I've seen where people, you know, I've read that there's just thousands of comments. People are outraged over this. People said they were crying. They had to turn it off because they couldn't stand to watch it. And so I said, you have to tag President Biden in it. So you have to put the at side and then POTUS, P-O-T-U-S, at FLOTUS. At VP, it says VP for Kamala Harris. At Gov Tim Walz, W-A-L-Z. And here's the other thing: I am outraged that Evers is getting a buy on this. He signed off on this as well. In fact, if I had been arrested on the Wisconsin side of the Mississippi, Evers signed a bill that would make me a felon. I would have a felony charge against me. Our legislator drafted the bill for that, and Biden's comment was, well, I have reservations about this, and I stand with the Indigenous people, but I'm going to sign it anyway. And so I want to do a caravan, and Tim and I have talked about this. I don't know if we're in on it or what, but on the 24th, he mentioned the walk that they're doing from White Earth to the Capitol, Minneapolis Capitol on the 25th. And I said I would like a rally in Madison at the Capitol to call Evers out on this and say, why did you rubber stamp that? The Mississippi River runs through our state as well. We call it the Great River Road. You know, you're not going to be fishing, swimming, or tubing or anything on the Mississippi when that pipeline bursts. They are going at rapid speed because they have feared that Biden might shut it down because they know that this Jamie Pinkham was there and witnessed all of it. So they actually, the camp I was at was a firelight camp, and we literally pitched our tents on the side of the road. And I woke up last, I think it was Thursday. I don't know. I'm at a loss for days. But I woke up and I heard them working at 5:30. They were already working, and I'm like, what? That's odd. And I got out of my tent to go down there, and that's when the smoke was overwhelming because the wind was blowing in the smoke from Canada right down on us, and then also over from the Oregon fires. So the air quality up there was very dangerous. Some kids actually ended up going to the hospital for it. So and I thought, how can this be happening? And yet they're extracting water that could be used to put out these fires. So then that night, this was the night before I was arrested, all of a sudden at night, after it got dark, floodlights went on so that they could work through the night. They lit up, and it's an enormous area because it's on both sides of the road. On one side of the road, they got their pad and the water pump and all their equipment. Then you cross the road on the other side, and it goes way up to a hill where you can see all the pipelines laid out and the man camps and everything up there. And they lit up the whole entire arena so that they could work through the night. They are making so many errors in trying to bum rush this thing through that there's just frack out after frack out, and there is no way, if they get this thing in the ground, that it is not going to burst in multiple places. It's just being done haphazardly. So at this point, I think the only way is to, and again, I'm not promoting me. I don't care. You know, I take the badass grandma that the kids called me at the Treaty People gathering. I did not give myself that name. and it's not about Jill Ferguson, you know, and if the hashtag badass grandma gets this thing 1 million views, that's just fine with me. And so, but to keep that going with all these different hashtags and and like Julie said, I mean, the report yesterday, you know, I was trying to send this stuff out when that announcement came through, and it said, you know, code red for humanity, and still Biden's doing nothing. So I'm just at a loss for understanding, and I think what we need to at this point is ask questions. I mean, why, and is it even legal for a foreign mega corporation to pay Minnesota/USA sheriffs to come against we the people? You know, and I've put that question to all the lawyers that I asked, and you know, they all said, you know, they were to look into it, but they're like, yeah, that doesn't sound real. Nobody's brought that issue up. So we need to ask these questions. You know, we need to ask, you know, through the internet, and make people, and to also understand that this oil is for export. It's not even for us. It's going to China. So again, ask questions. Why are we allowing our water, our air, and our soil to be poisoned permanently? They can never, when that pipe bursts, it doesn't leak and it doesn't spill. It's going to be a deluge, an inundation of tar sand oil that sinks. And so by the time they even know it, there could easily be 1 million gallons of oil going down the Mississippi and poisoning everything along the way. And 50,000 people, million people, depend on that river for their livelihood. For everything, for their water, for watering, agriculture. I mean, that's the other thing. Why are we taking water from there? But yet crops everywhere, up until the rains here. But I mean, the fall harvest is not going to be good. Pardon?
Jill, I
Yeah.
hear you, just a time check. And I say this cautiously, we have 6 minutes to go. But at the same time, I want to answer you in terms of your passion, if you might let me.
Sure.
Thank you, Jill. When we talk about our activism is about educating the public to move
Right.
the politicians.
Right.
We have to keep that in mind. As activists,
Yes.
we educate the public. And you are doing a good job of that, Jill. And social media does a good job of that. But at the same time, the most effective thing in terms of politicians is that old phone call to say, I live in your district. And it's a damn shame that the President of the United States will not take, input from the public directly anymore. Obama
Right.
has a system for that. But Biden will not do that. And so therefore, we have to get to our Congress people. That's what we have to,
Right.
and we have to affect that.
Right. Right.
One is a telephone call.
Yep.
And
That's a good point.
congressional offices, they do sticks. 1 call, 3 calls, 4 calls, cross it out, 5 calls. But they
Right.
out of that, and I'm just telling you, and this is a long-term, this is not a thing that happens overnight, but it's the phone
Right.
calls that are first. Next are the emails that count. Okay, before it was letters, but that doesn't count, in terms of the, what was the poison that affected hard copies, a long time ago. So the mail doesn't count anymore. So
Right.
I'll tell you, social media, and God bless social media. It's so important.
Yes.
But at the same time, that needs to drive it a little differently because it's nonpartisan. And partisan
Right.
is when you call your congressperson and say, I live in your district and this is what I want. I just want to end
Yeah.
it. Too much to talk about this, but this is an analysis of our work through the peace movement over the years. And I thank you. Thank you,
Right.
Jill. I'll hand it back to Julie.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. Thank you, Tim, for joining us tonight. Thanks, Greg, for that great slideshow you put together. And also, I want a big reminder that this Friday is the big demonstration. We want to have a lot of our people out there at 12 noon at Water in Wisconsin and downtown Milwaukee for the Stop the Money Pipeline demonstration. Will be one of over 25 cities in the country having this demonstration this Friday. And we'd like to have a good showing. We want to get ours, photographs of our group out online, showing the rest of the country that we're out there. In fact, we're out there every single Friday to stop this money pipeline and to get Chase Bank and Wells Fargo right across the street from continuing to fund the fossil fuel industry. So please, if you've never joined us before, it can be fun. We have honk.
I'll be there.
World pipe signs. A lot of people are honking their cars. Get a lot of talk with pedestrians crossing the streets there, which a chance to talk to people and educate them. So please, please join us this Friday, 12 noon. Thank you.
I will be there.
Yeah. Can we end with our chat?
Yeah.
Let's get a little passion in here. Hey, Jim, good to see you. Okay, repeat after me. Climate justice.
Climate justice.
Keep it in the ground.
Keep it in the ground.
The oil under the soil.
Keep the oil under the soil.
Keep the gas under the grass.
Grass. Keep the gas under the grass.
Keep the coal in the hole.
Keep the coal in the hole.
System change.
System change.
Not climate change.
Not climate change.
Renewable energy.
Renewable
energy.
Sustainable life.
Sustainable life.
And love.
Peace and love.
Love.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.